Hi, my name is Matthew Alexander. I'm a developer on the UrbanCode Deploy middleware configuration team. And in this video, I'd like to show one approach you could take to managing your WebSphere configuration using Snippets and the WasConfigure plugin. Now, the WasConfigure plugin stores your configuration data in a JSON format, and we allow you to split up that configuration data into smaller pieces we call snippets. In this video, I'm going to show you one way you could templatize snippets so that you can easily add WebSphere objects to your configuration data. I'm going to start this video by giving you a demonstration showing how this approach works, and then I'll walk you through the process I went to set it up. For this demonstration, let's say I have a WebSphere server and I want to add a JDBC provider to it. I've already gone through and created a template for a JDBC provider snippet, and I want to add it to my configuration. So I'm going to run this process in UrbanCode Deploy. You see I've created a process I named add JDBC provider to config data. I'm going to pick a version, which is really my base version that contains only my server configuration data. And then I'm just going to fill in these fields. It looks somewhat similar to what you see in the WAS admin console. And you can see I've set up some default choices to make it look even more closely to what you see in the WAS admin console. And what this process does is take my snippet, which is a template, replaces the values with what I entered in the UrbanCode Deploy UI, and then creates a new component version, which now contains my server configuration and the configuration for the JDBC provider. So if I go to my component, I should see a new version here. The version will contain the server.json for my server configuration and the new JDBC provider JSON that we just added. And now if I were to apply that out, I could create a new server with the JDBC provider. So now I'd like to walk through the process of how I created that snippet template and how I set up the process in UCD. So to start, I've run configuration discovery on a server that contains a JDBC provider, and I'm going to find that JDBC provider in my configuration data. I just did a search on WebSphere JDBC provider and found one in my configuration data. I'm going to use it as the basis for my snippet. So I'm going to extract this JDBC provider and create a snippet from it. So I'm going to copy the path, and then back in UCD, I'm going to have a generic process with this create configuration snippet step. And in the paths of resources to extract field, I'm going to paste that path. You'll see I've already entered values for where my server.json is located, and I'm going to extract my snippet into a temporary directory. This is because in the following step, I'm going to take that file, do some tokenization to it, and save a final version of the file. So next I have a templatized snippet configuration data step. I've already specified where that temporary JDBC provider snippet will be located, and in the output file field I specified where that final version of the snippet will be located. I'm going to use this user-defined tokenization field to really do a lot of the tokenization in my snippet. And this field works by basically doing a find and replace on values in your configuration data. Now, what values do I want to find and replace in my configuration data? It's really the role property values that make an object unique. Since that step works to do a find and replace all in your configuration data, I'm going to copy these entire lines one by one to make sure my find and replace doesn't replace anything I don't want it to. So I'll copy this line, and then back in my user-defined tokenization field, I'll enter it. Then I'll do a dash greater than to make a little arrow, and I'm going to place what my new value is going to be. I'm just going to place a copy of that line, but I'm going to replace the value in the role property with a token. And now I'm going to repeat that for the rest of the role properties in my configuration file. And now I'll speed up the video just to save time. And finally, I'm going to want to do a find and replace on the JDBC provider name in the configuration data, and this will make sure that all my paths are unique in my snippet. Now I can go ahead and run this process. The process is complete, and the end result is that on my system I should have a template for a snippet. You can see here's the JDBC provider in my snippet, and you'll see that the values for the role properties have been turned into tokens. And next I'll show you the component process I created in order to add a JDBC provider to a server configuration. I created a process and I named it Add JDBC Provider to Config Data. Now you would usually keep your snippet templates under source control, but for my demonstration I just placed it on the file system. So this process mimics checking out your snippet template from source control. The process starts off by cleaning the working directory, and then to mimic checking out the snippet from source control, I just used a shell script to copy that file over to my working directory. Next, the replace token step replaces those tokens I have in my configuration data snippet with the values I specified in the UCD UI. Next, the download artifact step runs, and what that does is copy my server.json file from the component and places it in the working directory. Once it's in the working directory, both the server.json file and the JDBC provider snippet file will be in the same directory, and then we're going to create a new component version in the following two steps. The skin info step just gets a date stamp from the system so I can ensure that I have a unique name for my component version, and then finally we're going to create a version with those two files as component version artifacts. I also need to go to my component process properties and specify the names we used for those tokens in my configuration data. And this is where I can do things like set up default values or create a list of values for a user to choose from. Okay, now that everything's set up, let's try running our process, and we'll even apply out the server to our WAS environment. I'm going to go ahead and run this add JDBC provider to config data process that we created. For the version, I'm just going to pick the base version, the one that has only the server.json file in it. And I'll name my JDBC provider JDBC for demo. I'll leave this description as created using UrbanCode deploy, and I'll run this process. Now that the process is complete, let's just check our component and make sure that it contains the server.json file and the JDBC provider snippet. That looks good. Now let's create a new server in our WAS environment that will contain the JDBC provider. Let's name our new server server for demo. And then add our component to that server. Now I'll run the component process to apply my server and the JDBC provider out to WAS. And when I apply, I'm going to pick my latest version, the one we just created. Okay, it looks like the process completed successfully. Now let's check out WebSphere and see if our server was created. I've got 3 servers right now, but once I click on WebSphere application servers, it refreshes and we see we have a new server created. And now I'll check out the JDBC providers to see if one was added for this server. And you can see it's the JDBC provider we created using UrbanCode Deploy. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it gives you some ideas on how you can approach managing your WAS configuration using snippets. Thank you.